I will give you the first pick. Number 5. Who is your number 5 guy in the Defensive Player of the Year race?
So I had to toggle between this one. Um, I had so I just want to give a couple really quick. I did you have
Yeah.
this guy in your top five? Because this is not somebody who I did have in my top five. I had him in my top eight. Did not have him top five.
Yep.
It's OG Anunoby.
Had him at 8.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I'll just say it's been tough. Like he's still been very good, but he is not at the same level he was earlier to start the year.
Agree.
So it's just that happens. Still been really good. It's going to make all defense for me.
Yep.
Another just out guy, Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson's been awesome
Top
this
10.
year. He's
Yeah.
been so good this year. Like I think we talked about this during the one pod when we talked about the Knicks, but like his added ability to really defend in the post now and become a
Yep.
better defensive rebounder has been huge. He's been a large reason for why that defense has been so good. I would have him up there. So number 5 for me, I'm gonna go Jared Allen.
That is also my number 5. Awesome.
Oh
I like
wow,
this.
okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay.
We're
Give me the
getting
Jared
clear.
Allen pitch.
No, I mean I think it's tough because like I think Evan Mobley is all defense worthy as well, but to me it's just been more you see the drop off when Jared doesn't play. It's hard to put into words how much how different, and part of it is just not having the size. Like if you don't have 2 7-footers on court who are as mobile, who are as smart as Jared and Evan, you see the drop off.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's just hurt Evan because he's been the one who's more healthy. So you see it impacts him negatively. I think it's been a lot of what has driven his advanced numbers down. But with Jarrett, I mean, he's still so good defending on switches. His pick and roll play has been fantastic this year. We'll also have like honestly, I think sneakily, like it doesn't get enough shine how good Donovan and Darius have been defensively this year, like in
Donovan
their roles.
particularly.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
Darius is like obviously like he's gonna get picked on in isolation and stuff, but he's a really good off-ball defender. Like he really works to do everything he can to not be a negative. He's never gonna be perfect, but I think like he really fights to be good. And especially like you just mentioned too, like Donovan's been awesome, but like Jarrett holds everything together. The rim protection is stellar.
Yep.
He can kind of just defend anybody in a pinch, and they've needed it at times this year. It's helped, Isaac Okoro has really started to find something of late, which that's probably a future pod. And yeah, I mean, I would just be there with him for this. I think he should have been in consideration last year with how good the Cavs defense has been overall. Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah, I think his coverage and ball screens has gotten a lot better. Even when he gets strung out now, he actually can really move his feet. And you don't want him to be out there for more than like 5 or 6 slides, right? Or like maybe even you don't want him to be out there for 5 or 6 slides. You really want him to be out there for like 4 slides, right? Where like there are, 5 and under left on the shot clock, right? But he can manage himself out there in those situations pretty well, I think now.
Mm-hmm.
The way he baits defenders in ball screens now when they play and drop, like that cat and mouse game, I think is really, really improved. His level of rotational awareness defensively, I think has really improved. That was something that I've mentioned previously. I think I started talking about this last year where when he was younger in his Nets days, I thought that sometimes he could get, I don't know if lazy is the right word. I don't know if he like didn't have the recognition yet, just being a younger player. I felt like you could kind of get him on the weak side a little bit, and you could also get him like chasing blocks on the weak side. I think he's gotten way better about just being big and being impactful at the rim. You look at his numbers at the basket this season, opponents shooting only 54% at the rim against him. He does contest like a little bit more often than some of the elite rim protectors that we're probably going to talk about at the top there. But I do think part of that is that he's playing next to Evan Mobley, who is also contesting quite a bit at the basket. So I think he's been just awesome. I think he has been fantastic at this point defensively. Would have him in my top 5. I think that if you want to give him a vote, like number 3 overall defensively, I would be willing to like manage that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go to number 4 now. I have Bam Adebayo at number 4. And I thought I would end up with him a couple spots higher, but ultimately I ended up with him just a couple lower at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I'm cool with that. I have him at number 2 personally.
Yeah.
I'm cool with having him, kind of wherever. I think for me, I mean, I have a clear cut number 1, but I think everybody, like when you're looking at 2 through 4, I'm cool with really kind of toggling around with those. So yes, what is your pitch for having a number 4?
So Bam is the most switchable big in the NBA, just straight up. He is unbelievable at moving his feet on the perimeter. He is just a straight switch big. Like I think he is the one guy in the league where I feel completely confident with him guarding 1 through 5. Like OG Anunoby, I feel pretty good about it, but there are like some fives that I think can hit him, right? With Bam, like, look, is he going to be the best guy that you could possibly have defending Joel Embiid? No, but he is really good at it. Like he's effective doing it. The way that their defensive schemes, like they can flip and swap their schemes because Bam is such an integral chess piece to what they're doing. Like depending on the matchup, like they can play a little bit of zone, they can play a little bit of like, you know, heavy switch ball screen coverages. They'll be willing to drop occasionally. They'll blitz guy. Like they can just do so many different things. And it's because Bam is there to just be the guy that does it all. Right. That versatility, I think, is why they're such an impactful defense. I believe that they're sitting at number 3 overall in defensive efficiency right now, league wide. Why did I Bam a couple of spots lower than these guys? So the on-off numbers in terms of his impact are a little bit lower. Like they are 1 point worse when he is off the court versus when he's on the court defensively. I'm okay with that. Like that's not the biggest deal in the world to me, but then there's also the fact that his overall defensive rating when he's on the court, like his, what the Heat's defensive rating are when he's on the court is, I guess, 111.2. That's a little bit lower than the guys that I currently have above him, or right around the mark for the guy that I have at number 3. And for me, this team has good defenders. Like Jimmy Butler, when he's been out there, is like a really, really good, impactful defender. Kyle Lowry is, a little bit diminished from what he was, but he's a smart defender and like knows how to play within all of these coverages. Like they have guys like Max Strus knows what he's doing out there at the very least. He gets attacked here and there, but like for the most part, like if he's the guy that's getting attacked, like you're probably in a pretty good spot. I think Caleb Martin's really improved defensively. Like, yeah, they have their weak spots. Like Hero is a weak spot the teams try to hit, but then you have guys like Haywood Highsmith who come in, who is useful. Like it's weird to me that this team is not quite as good defensively with Bam in the middle, which when these guys are so close, 2 through 4, they're so tight. I ended up just docking him a little bit there. What is your case for him at number 2, given that you have him there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat. I probably just care a little bit less about the on-offs because my issues are more so with like I just struggle with this Heat team.
I struggle with his rim protection as well. Like he's just a lower level rim protector than some of these guys because he's smaller, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair, but I think to me it's more like it's just hard because I feel like he would not even that he's put in bad scenarios. Like I think genuinely like his defense at the same as OG, except to a lesser level. Like I don't think his defense has still been extremely, extremely good. That's why it's this conversation. But like since he took on even more of a scoring burden over like the last month and a half, I think it's slipped a little bit. Again, that's not saying it's been a ton, but like it's still been very good. Nekias Duncan talked about this yesterday. I'd been talking about it with him as well before he tweeted that out. Just about like I think it's a natural progression to see a guy who has become like and this is my way of saying like this has been Bam's team this year. I think Bam's been the clear cut number 1 on this team.
I've seen people have like Jimmy Butler as like the all-star for the Miami Heat. That is absolutely bonkers. It's Bam. It's 100% Bam.
Exactly. So that's again like he's gone from like the 100th percentile defender to like 98th percentile defender. That's still really, really darn good. So I agree. And I think my biggest issue with the Heat overall is just their lack of size always bothers me. Like it's bothered me in other years, but this is the year that I think it's like really gotten to me. Like I like Caleb Martin. It's just asking too much for him to play the 4 most of the time.
Agree with that.
It's like, and the issue too is like when you have Caleb Martin playing the 4, okay, well, Max Strus is playing the 3, or like somebody who's 6'5" is playing the 3. I'm like, it's too small. And for the way that they want to play too, it just doesn't work for me. I know it works for them. It's how they want to play.
Well, and they're multiple. Like I guess that's the thing. Like do you know, like, I guess the thing that I struggle with them sometimes is like, they're so versatile in the things that they do a lot of the time that like I struggle a little bit with knowing. I know what their goals are. Their goals are to play pressure defense, right? Like they want to like really, really pressure you.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, like they do it in different ways. Like it's hard for me to come up with like an overarching like, you know, theme beyond just like pressure for them, right? Like with Milwaukee, they're just like drop covering you, right? And they're trying to feed everyone to Brook. They're trying to feed everyone into the rim, and then they're going to like use that ball pressure from behind from Drew Holiday, where he's able to recover over the top of screens. Like they have like a true, real defensive identity. Like Miami has like a defensive identity just insofar as like they're going to play aggressive, they're going to be tough, they're going to be really physical, and they're going to be able to move really well. That's the benefit of playing smaller, is that, you know, they do move really well out there. But yeah, like I struggle with like the identity piece of it from time to time as well, I guess. And like the other thing is too that like this size, right? We're talking about this size all the time. They're still the second best defensive rebounding team in the league. Like it doesn't kill them on the glass because Bam is really good on the glass. Jimmy's good on the glass. Like they have guys that rebound. So yeah, it's interesting. They're in an interesting spot, the Heat. And I agree with you. I can't really figure out what to do with them yet because obviously the offense is really bad as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a weird place, but, well, I'm ready to move on to the next. Who do I wait? Okay. Oh, did I do who I have it for?
Yeah. Who is your number 4?
Nick Claxton.
Yeah, that's my number 3. So we're going to be, I think, we're going to have the same top 5 at the very least, just in a different order, I think.
Yeah, Claxton's been awesome this year, and I think last night was a really good encapsulation of that. He gave, I mean, you can look at what Joel's box score was, but he gave Joel Embiid more problems in isolation defense than I think anybody has this year. Like,
yeah,
he was really good. And I think you saw some of the limits of Brooklyn's defense last night without having KD. I think you can see some of the lack of size really pop up with how they were trying to play offensively too. But that's been more so to Claxton's credit. Like his switch ability has been awesome. I think he's the best switch defender as a big in the league outside of
Bam.
Yeah, outside of Bam. So that's exactly where I'm at. And then the rim protection has been awesome. Like, and he's same thing as like obviously in a different way, but like same thing as Mitch Robb. Like he's gotten so much better with his physicality and being able to defend the post, as we saw last night playing against Joel. Like that's a guy who gets eaten alive in the post last year, and now like he has the core strength and ability to really stand guys up and be impactful in that way. And again, just the rim protection has been awesome too. Like he's been like I mean overall, I couldn't get there with some of the all-star talk this year, but he's legitimately been their third best player this year. So
wait, there are people talking about Nick Claxton as an all-star?
There was a small push for Nick Claxton all-star, and I could not get there, but he has been extremely impressive, and I think deserves all defense without question.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like I'm all in on Nick Claxton this year. I think he's been phenomenal. I mean, again, as mentioned previously, like we're talking about like there's a very real conversation about whether or not Joel Embiid or not Joel Embiid, I'm sorry, Bam Adebayo or Julius Randle is going to get an all-star berth. Mm-hmm. Nick Claxton's a little bit down the rung here, as great as he's been. Nick has been phenomenal though defensively. Like I'm so glad you brought up that core strength because that is the key. Like he could get bullied like at times last year, like significantly could get bullied. And now, like you said, like I was honestly like watching that game, like against the 76ers. I was like, wait, he actually can like kind of manage this matchup with Joel Embiid now. Like he's actually frustrating Joel in a really like substantial, significant way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he could do that.
That game was like his, for me, all defense candidacy. Like I would have had him. I mean, point being, like I would have had him on regardless, but I think every year there's like a game or two that really sticks in your mind of when a guy really earned that nod. And I think yesterday was that for me because I think so much of if he played this way last year for a stretch, people would have been like, well, he can't guard in the post. But like, I think that's very clearly just not true now. And I just want to use this to say too, like his improvements as an offensive player have been a joy to watch. Like I think you saw some of it start to come to fruition last year, but now he really can fluidly put the ball on the deck once or twice, take it to the rim. Like he's not a perfect short roll guy, but I think it's really improved and gotten better. Just the overall ball handling is solid from him. And it's fun because he was one of the guys before I even really got super into the draft. I watched him at Georgia a little bit, and I remember being so enamored with him because, as you are well aware, the Tom Crean Georgia experience was something else. And Like
here's the thing that Tom knew. Tom knew that he could handle the ball.
Well, exactly.
And like Tom let him rock a little bit.
Yeah. And I think that was part of what was really interesting about Nick. And I think this is the first year where you're really seeing it all come together. I mean, he's leading the league among qualifying players, leading the league in 2-point percentage and field goal percentage. And it's not just dunks. Like, yes, he's dunked like 115 times this year, but he's kind of developing a little bit of a post game. You want to see more come out of it. You want to see more with touch shots and stuff because it hasn't quite come along yet, but really encouraging signs of development from him. I'm very excited about his direction.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. Like, I think Brooklyn has really cleaned up a lot of the defensive kind of issues that they've had throughout the year for the most part, like in the past with this roster iteration with Kyrie and KD. And then, obviously they had Harden for a while, right? Like Claxton's the biggest reason for that, but like the Royce O'Neal addition has been helpful in that regard. Obviously Simmons, like people will complain about him not looking at the rim, but he has been impactful defensively. Yuta Watanabe has been smart defensively at the very least. Like they have guys that are out there that are smart defensively and like make the right moves. Mm-hmm. And KD's obviously taken like a substantial leap from where he was the last couple of years defensively. I think this season he's been like a borderline all defense candidate. Like I would probably have him in my top 20 for for defensive player of the year at the very least. I don't know if I get him to top 10 necessarily, but yeah, I think that Nick is the biggest piece of that. He's the central piece. He's the switchable guy. He's the guy that allows them to play disparate coverages. Like they can just straight switch at the level. Like they can just straight play a drop with him where he is just using his size to be on the interior and cause issues. Like his length is real. Like he's a 7'3" wingspan. He's 6'11". Like he is like an enormous dude out there that also has great feet. His instincts have really improved. I think he is unequivocally a top 5 defender in the NBA this season. I had him at number 3. You had him at number 4. I would imagine that your number 3 was Brook Lopez, right?
That is correct.
I had Brook at number 2. So let's talk a little bit about Brook. The thing that just is so abundantly clear within their defense is that, yes, Giannis also makes their defense work at an exceptionally high level. But I think Brook is the thing that takes them to being great. We saw it last season where Giannis like literally had to carry that defense on his shoulders. Mm-hmm. He carried it to the point where it was like a top 15 defense in the league, right? They are like unequivocally the number 1 defense in the league now that Brook is back. And part of that is the synergy that Giannis and Brook have together. And I would have Giannis somewhere in my top 15 for, defensive player of the year right now. He is a great, great, great defender. I think he's been slightly worse this year defensively. And I think that he is able to be that because he knows that he has Brook back there. Like, I think that when we get to the playoffs, like Giannis's level is just going to pick right back up defensively. I don't think he's any worse defensively. I just think that the level this season has been a little bit worse because he knows that Brook is there. He knows that they can just filter everything toward Brook Lopez, and Brook is going to be the guy that just completely like blocks out the sun, right? Opponents are shooting only 53% at the rim when he is the primary rim protector. They have a 109.5 defensive rating when he is out there. That is 5 points better than when he's off the court. And that is a monster defensive rating when he is on the court. That's like by far best in the league, essentially by like 1.5 points, I think. The other thing about Brook is like people will complain about the defensive rebounding numbers, but for the longest time, I think that really smart NBA fans know that Brook is one of the best like box out guys in the league. And if you look at the Bucks numbers, I think that they get like 78.6% of defensive rebounds when Brook is on the court, which is like essentially a top 3 number in the NBA. In part, it's because Brook is out there kind of cleaning up the paint and allowing Giannis to come in so that Giannis can get the rebound, start the break earlier, grab and go, create offense that way. He's just a really, really, really impressive player on the defensive end. That's why I have Brook Lopez at number 2.
Yeah. I have no issue with him being a 2, and I still would have no issue with anyone who voted him number 1. I think just, yeah, exactly like you mentioned, his rim protection overall has been impressive. The way he's navigated the drop has been impressive. Like everything within, like he just owns the restricted area, or even not completely, just the paint. He owns the paint.
Even like 10 feet and in. Yeah.
Yeah. He's been a blast to watch. And I appreciate too that they just don't switch him as much anymore. They used to remember, I'll never forget.
Yeah.
My most frustrated moment on Twitter was the first 2 games of Suns Bucks when Mike Budenholzer just said we're gonna switch everything. And all the Suns did was, okay, well, let's pull Brook into a switch. And then Suns fans just went so hard on, oh, this is why Brook Lopez sucks. I'm like, it literally has nothing to do with Brook. If anything, this is a vote of confidence for his defense because they're trying to switch him out so they don't have to score against him. And it's what the scheme is warranting. And like, exactly like you're talking about, like, he is just a massive human being. Like, I think we are getting another guy who is starting to feel in this realm now that he's getting playing time. Like, every time I watch Brook Lopez play, I'm just like, that dude is 7'1" or 7'2". He's massive. Like, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I know exactly. But he's also
then I was about to say with Mark
kind
Williams.
Of.
Like, Mark Williams is hitting that stage of like, whoa, like you are huge. And I felt
not the guy that I thought you were going to say. By the way,
who do you think I was going to say?
Walker Kessler, because I feel
Walker is the same, but like Mark is just on a different level.
Well, he's so long. Like, he's like when he like extends his arms, it's just like, oh my god, like
his wingspan's insane. But like it's fun because like I'm just like, why couldn't we see this all year? But also, not to like derail this, but it's like, I don't know if you ever watched his sister play, but he and his sister play extremely similar, like in the way that they move, how they defend. Like, and his sister was like, I mean, she's still really good, but she was like borderline defensive player of the year a couple times in the W. So very random shot. But yeah, point being, like, Brook is just like the master of being big and in the right place. And that sounds like diminishing his defense, but that's more so like talking about how he's maximized what his capabilities are. And I don't think that there's anybody in the league who's as good at verticality as he is. Like, he's so good at getting up without fouling and just being able to contest stuff without putting himself in precarious positions. And that matters a ton.
Well, and he also, so like when I say like huge, like he's obviously long and like he's obviously like tall, right?
Mm-hmm.
But more than that, he is also like wide. Like, he just takes up, like, with his chest and like with his frame and torso, a ton of space, and he has really good short area quickness to be able to make that like quick step and just get his chest in front of you, right? Like, if he has his chest in front of you, it's really hard to even manage him. Like, you know, Nick Claxton from time to time, like we've talked about Nick here a little bit. There are times where Nick struggles to get his chest in front of someone because he's just not quite as wide, and like he's, you know, he has the incredible quickness and he's really, really improving at it. And I think by the time Nick is like 27, he's going to be unbelievable at it. But like, he's just kind of not as wide, and sometimes he doesn't get his chest in front of you. You know, I think that like this is something that, you know, I'm trying to think. Like, I think when Joel's chest is in front of you, it's just really hard to score. Brook, when he gets that chest like right there and has that length, like has that verticality, you just can't, like, you can't go through him at all. Like, he is just a brick wall. Like Mitchell Robinson from time to time. Like, I think that sometimes you can kind of like go into Mitchell's chest and like get that just a little bit of separation, right? With Brook, no chance. Like, you've absolutely no chance. His verticality is also so good. He never brings the hands down. Like, it's Brook's technique is what should be taught in every single like drop coverage class. I think it is absolutely pristine in terms of getting the absolute most out of tools that are just a little bit less. Okay, we have number one. We have Jaren Jackson, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just kind of like, look, on a per minute basis, I don't even really think it's all that close. I will say, like, if you wanted to have Brook Lopez at number one, if you wanted to have Bam Adebayo at number one based off of minutes played, I'll listen to it, like, and I'll hear it out. I honestly think we're at the point where Jaren has played enough minutes now where his level of defense this year has exceeded those guys. Jaren's numbers here in terms of rim protection, I almost have just never seen anything like it. Do you know what opponents are shooting against him at the basket when he is the primary contesting player?
Isn't it like 45% over the last month? Somewhere around there.
43% over the entire season.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
That is like lower than Rudy Gobert, I think, ever had. as a primary rim protector. And oh, by the way, Jaren is like out there, like playing the 4 a lot of the time, switching out into different coverages, rotating over as like a scramble defender and help. Like he's all over the place. He has just been unbelievable. The block rate is obviously incredible. Yeah, every time I watch him, I'm just like, holy shit, this guy is the best defender in the league.
Yeah, no, I've been there. He's been extremely impressive. He opens up so much for what Memphis does in general. He's very fun. I love watching him play. The way that he's expanded as a defender has been a blast. I will say, just for my own ire, I tweeted very angrily about 2 weeks ago that I was tired of hearing about him having foul problems because it had been so much better this year. He's been in foul trouble the 5
we talked about this on the pod, Mark.
We did talk about this on the pod. I am still not willing to step off. I think it's just been a tough sledding here. But yeah, that is not a great look for me after I went to bat for him.
Yeah.
But I still think he's been unreal. And a lot of the reasons why he's played lesser minutes has not been due to foul trouble. It's because the Grizzlies are blowing everybody out. I mean, they've been incredibly good, incredibly dynamic. I'm very interested to see what this stretch without Steven Adams looks like. They started Brandon Clark last night. Obviously, Xavier Tillman's going to play. Shout out Xavier Tillman. I love watching Xavier Tillman play. But I mean, even like last night, like he got blown by a couple of times, but he had a couple of switches out on Steph Curry. And like there was, I'm trying to remember when it was later in the game, but it just completely prevents him. I think Steph tries to go into like 6 or 7 dribble combos. And he's just at the point where he's so disciplined with being able to stay in front of somebody that guys have to pass out. It's like, well, I'm getting nothing here. And again, that's not everything, but it just speaks to the level of versatility that he has while also being elite in the things that he does do.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's just been unbelievable. I am interested to see how this looks with Steven Adams gone. Like it could look pretty different for them, but for the most part, I think Jaren is a stud, and I just don't even think it's really like it's the totality of what he does. Like he is switchable. He is like a great scramble help defender. And then he's also the best rim protector in the league so far this year. Like I would listen to a case for Brook is the best rim protector. Yeah. But like the numbers all say Jaren, like block rate, contest rate, whatchamacallit, like just straight up like percentage when he is the main contesting player. Yeah, they all say that it's Jaren this year. And my eyes tell me that Jaren's like got the best mix of versatility in terms of what he can do within scheme, as well as like just elite level rim protection, just kind of brings it all to the table. Couple other guys of note. I do love Draymond Green. I think Draymond's had a really underrated defensive season. If you look at his rim protection numbers, they're actually like not that far off of Jaren's. He contests less than Jaren does, but like he's average, like opponents shoot 48% at the rim when he's the primary defender at the basket. He's been really, really good. They're like, he even has said on his podcast a couple times, like he feels like he doesn't have like the space to be able to like hold his teammates accountable in the way that he needs to. And that defense has just kind of fallen apart a little bit around him. He would make my top 10 for sure. I don't think I can quite get him into my top 5. Do you have any thoughts on Draymond defensively so far this year?
Yeah, I think I'm probably in the same boat. Like I think he's still been very good this year. I just probably would not quite have him in that same group. Like we've seen peak defensive Draymond, and this hasn't been him yet. Like I think that it's very much like we've seen in even last year. Like I thought he was incredible defensively. Part of it was him missing time, but I still feel like, okay, he's very clearly going to uptick in the playoffs. And that's, again, not a slight. That's just, I think when it comes down to the consistency piece, it does make a difference. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have an issue with somebody having him in the top 5. I just personally wouldn't right now.